Joining me now is former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. Don't ask me, Gov, how I would know about life coaches on the internet, okay? But I know there are a lot of them out there. But she's acting kind of like a toddler in one of those soccer games where everybody gets a trophy at the end of the game. Like everybody should celebrate her for blowing up 1.6 billion maybe if you top it off. What's your reaction to this tonight?
She should have run for therapist-in-chief instead of president of the United States. But she owes it to her supporters. I mean, she did. She ran through $1.5 billion, a record amount of money. Half of her supporters are small dollar donors. They averaged about $49 in contributions. And yet she spent the money, $1 million or $2.5 million on Oprah Winfrey, $4 million on private jet travel, $15 million for event producers to put together some of those concerts that they were performing. And, you know, I think about Aunt Martha sitting in Chillicothe, Ohio at her kitchen table writing a $25 check to the Democrat candidate because she's been a lifelong Democrat. And the idea that Kamala would blow the money on entertainment people, celebrities, Hollywood, and rich people really sums up what the Democrats today are about. They're about using the little guy and taking their money and using it to enrich the wealthy and those who already have stature and a good way of living. And that campaign is a reflection of how Democrats have been governing. And the way she treats her campaign money is how Democrats treat taxpayer dollars. The people are there to serve them, not them to serve the people.
Yeah. Well, she's also, we're going to get to Tim Walz in a second, but she's also trying to cling to her joyful theme that she desperately tried to use throughout the campaign, and it fell flat, but she's trying to revive it. Watch.
I know this is an uncertain time. I'm clear-eyed about that. I know you're clear-eyed about it. And it feels heavy. But as you've heard me say many times, hard work can be joyful work.
Okay, those bubbles, Sam, what are those bubbles on the side? Those are like people commenting. What are those? We don't know what it is, but it makes it look like, I don't know. I'm in a good mood. I'm in such a good mood. Everything is funny to me, but I don't even know what the point of this is, but it's hard work is joyful work. How about fraudulent work, lying that Donald Trump was a fascist? How about that? Is that joyful to smear somebody? Shouldn't be.
Well, here again, it's not being honest with the American people. It's among the reasons she lost. You know, the Democrats are trying to make people believe things they know deep down cannot be true. She's trying to tell her supporters that they should be joyful. Losing's hard. It's a tough thing. They have every right to feel bad about losing. She ought to be honest with them and tell them, lick your wounds, go under the shade of the trees, get some rest, and come back strong next time around. But they lost, they're depressed, and she ran a terrible campaign. But notwithstanding that, Trump ran a great campaign. He's the right man for the right time. And there was no way she was going to beat Trump in this election with the mood of the country and the fact that the American people have woken up to the fact that they've been lied to so long by the establishment in Washington, Democrats and
sick of it.
Some Republicans.
And Rod, Tim Walz was just a horrendously bad pick. I mean, going to Minnesota, one of the worst governors Minnesota's ever had, disaster handling the George Floyd riots, all of that. But he wants to give his take on where things stand now as well. Watch.
I know it's incredibly disappointing now, and look, candidly, it's a bit scary. We need to be that anchor for the folks who are wondering what's next. Find the place in your community to heal both yourselves and your community. And I know there's a bit of a feeling of loss because we saw what a real leader looks like.
Okay, well, you could look at his eyeballs closely. He's reading. He can't even have a natural moment in defeat. Again, authenticity, Trump has it in spades. These people have none of it.
Well, that's right. That was inauthentic as well. And the fact that they're talking about fear and being afraid. I mean, the American people have a reason to be afraid, but it's because Biden is escalating the situation in Ukraine, and so is some of our NATO partners creating a situation before President Trump takes over that's frankly dangerous and frightening. This stuff they're talking about is just phony baloney. But again, the American people saw through it, and it's why she lost resoundingly. And it's why I think there's a new day in America, and there's a lot of hope, and a lot of Democrats are part of this new Trumpocrat movement that I believe I started all those years ago when I finally got home from spending 8 years in prison for politics and not for crimes. And one more thing, when I think about that governor as the nominee of the Democratic Party, frankly, I'd have been a better candidate with Kamala Harris, notwithstanding my criminal record. He was a terrible candidate as governors go, and she made a big mistake by not choosing Shapiro in Pennsylvania.
Hey, she would have won. She would have lost. Shapiro's the happiest man alive because he wasn't tied to Kamala Harris's anvil that was thrown off the top of a 18-story building. Rod, it's always great to see you. Have a wonderful thing.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.